This is a 2018 Nissan 370Z NISMO. You can tell it's 2018 because for 2019, the available color choices for the NISMO dropped down to just two, black or white. Oh boy. The NISMO package bumps up the power over the standard car, has stiffer springs, bigger sway bars, and larger NISMO brakes. Oh, and don't forget the slick-looking 19-inch wheels. The 370Z has been with us for a very, very long time, and other than a few cosmetic tweaks, is basically the same car that came out in 2009. In fact, the only notable change to the 370Z NISMO over the past decade has been the base price tag, which has crept up from $39 grand to over $45K before options. It sounds like an uphill battle for the old Z car. Well, let's find out how it drives. Inside the 370Z NISMO, and you join me in a very comfortable place. We have Recaro Sportster bucket seats inside, which are very comfortable and deeply bolstered. There's a lot of modern instrumentation with the Z, everything you need to know as far as performance driving is concerned. You have oil temperature, water temperature, battery voltage if you care. And a lot of the touch points have been revised. There's Alcantara on the steering wheel, leather wrapped surfaces on the dash, and in general they've done some nice things to kind of delay the aging process of the Z car. Because the 370's been with us since I believe 2009 or 2010, and the 350 before it was much in the same vein. It was kind of just an evolution of the existing thing. You can feel the fact it's a bit of an older architecture, but that's okay, because it's a pretty good one to have. You have double wishbone suspension, front and rear. You can fit massive tires like this one has. There's a lot of good to be found here. And it sounds pretty good in the cabin too. Here's full throttle. It has the nice VQ howl that you're used to hearing. I have to say, I'm not sure if it comes up on the camera, but if you can hear, the clutch pedal is very noisy for some reason. It really, like, the engagement feels fine, and the clutch and shifter, like, they feel great, but man, that clutch pedal, it has a serious thunk and bang when you shift. It's very pronounced, and it kind of does give the car, it makes it feel a bit dated, to be honest. But that's okay, because like I said, you're in a very enjoyable place. The 370Z soldiers on with the same VQ37 VHR engine it's always had. That 3.7 liter naturally aspirated V6 makes 350 horsepower and 276 pound-feet of torque in the NISMO Z. So you can see that down low is not making as much torque as the competition, but what you get, unlike the other competition, is that great top-end surge. I mean, this still is a pretty meaty power band. If you're over 3,000 RPM, you're going places. And when you have a 7,500 RPM redline, that means you have a pretty big power band to play with. It has enough torque to kind of get you going. Until you get into the power band, it can really hammer it. But it's not so much that's going to upset traction, which is a big thing. A lot of the modern turbocharged cars, you know, they trade that top-end power for a huge mid-range, and that huge mid-range torque feels great, except for the fact that it can upset the chassis, it can upset the tire grip. And if you don't have tire grip, you have nothing. Now, the VQ gets a lot of grief because it's an older engine architecture and it sounds a bit coarse and raspy. And to be honest, this one sounds pretty gravelly, as if like it's low on oil or something. It's a charming character flaw of the VQ. I'm actually amazed how much road noise I'm getting, and not just tire noise. I mean, noise is in NVH, you're feeling the road imperfections through the tires, through the chassis of the car. And that's not a demerit in my books, because the car is very communicative. It feels great when you're really hammering it. Now, I am curious, as this is the NISMO, this is the hardcore version of the 370, it still feels pretty compliant on these canyon roads, which, if you've ever driven the mountain roads here in California, they are not the smoothest. There are a lot of undulations, a lot of broken pavement, and it actually feels very planted. I'm actually curious if this is hardcore enough to be a track day special, because it feels so compliant on the road. I am surprised how easy it is to hop in this car and just hustle it. It feels very neutral, very balanced. Now, coming from BMWs, a lot of stock BMWs that don't wear the M badge and cost a ton of money tend to understeer and then oversteer. This car is pretty much a neutral steer. You can feel it. It's a lot like a Mazda Miata, in that it kind of just goes where you want it to go. And part of that is, again, the double wishbone suspension front and rear, which means it has great dynamic camber change under load and cornering, which is fantastic for sporty driving like this. The other big thing is that this car has massive rubber on it. This car has huge wheels and tires, super duper wide, and when you combine it with the fact that this car is basically as wide as it is long, I mean, it makes for a great handling car. What else about the Z car? So I mentioned the fabulous seats, all of the nice touch points, so your steering wheel, all the dash, the buttons all feel very nice, everything kind of falls to the hand nicely. I hopped in this car having never been in a 370 before, and I was immediately able to find the buttons I was looking for and the things I was looking for, as far as like the stereo, the air conditioning, all that stuff. You hop in this car, it's all very intuitive. It does feel a bit old, and that's okay, because it's like an old friend, you know. You immediately are able to kind of get into a good rhythm with this thing and kind of make it all work. Now, something I do find very enjoyable about the Z is the fact that for a low-slung sports coupe with not very much glass, the visibility is actually excellent. They have, in the blind spot here, a small cutout of window, which means your blind spot isn't as pronounced as some other sports cars, where that's actually a pretty annoying thing to live with day to day. The Z kind of has you covered there. Now, I have to say, I originally was not a huge fan of the modern Z car. I thought it was a bit too bloated. I thought, although it looked really sexy with the wide hips and everything, that it would just be a bit too ungainly in these back roads. But that's really not the case. The car really does shrink around you, and that makes it very engaging to drive. The Z car drives much smaller than it actually is. Now, there are some funny quirks with this car that perhaps maybe, since I'm uninitiated with the Z car, that maybe the Z car pros will know better. But for some reason, the trunk on this 370Z NISMO will not open. There's the button, which I found, to pop the trunk open, and the latch comes off, you hear it pop off, but for whatever reason, the trunk will not open, which is kind of agitating. Again, I'm sure there's a way around this that maybe just the hardcore fans of the car know and I don't, but for all of the things you operate in the cockpit being so intuitive, that's, again, something kind of weird that I can't figure out for some reason. Now, this car does have what's called Synchro Rev Match. I think the 370Z was one of the first mainstream cars to have that feature. Personally, I find it to be a bit of an annoyance. I would buy manual transmission cars to enjoy using the manual transmission. The only hitch is I can't seem to turn it off. The button's right here, but no matter what I do, the light stays on and the Synchro Rev Match stays on. So the problem is, if you proceed to rev match your own downshifts anyway, the syncopation's off, because it's almost as if the throttle's preloaded, so you end up overshooting and giving it too many revs, which obviously there are worse problems to have, but it makes for a less than smooth downshift, and I pride myself on being a very adept manual transmission driver. So that's kind of annoying. I'm sure if I dig through the menus and sub-menus, or really go through the owner's manual, I can figure out how to turn it off, but for the rest of the car being so intuitive, that's one thing that isn't. So the 370Z NISMO feels like an old car, and it drives like an old car. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But the problem is, Nissan has priced it into the stratosphere. This 370Z NISMO has a price tag of $46,600, which is absolutely insane when you consider that you can get into a Camaro SS 1LE, the track package, or the Ford Mustang GT Performance Pack 2 for slightly less or exactly the same money. And those are much, much better sports cars. I think it's time for Nissan to retire the 370Z NISMO. Goodbye, 370Z NISMO. You won't be missed.